Coming up on this episode.
I told you the one story. Like my mom, she stopped on the highway to get flowers. I don't know why you do that. Middle of the night, me and my brother in the car, and she gets mugged by four guys.
What?
Four guys. They bash her over the head. They steal her wallet, purse, everything. I mean, she got stitches, but she didn't report nothing. She was just like, look, head down. Let's,
Why didn't she feel like she should report it?
It was just like, I don't want to draw attention to ourselves. That's literally it. She doesn't want to draw attention to herself. That's kind of like the very immigrant thing. Is like, we don't want to draw attention to ourselves because they don't even feel like they belong here.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What up, grown folk? This is Andrew here, and I want to talk about something near and dear to my heart today, which is around the Stop Asian Hate stuff going on right now. And the person I have sitting with me today is a man that has impacted me in a big, big way. And his head's super big already. So when he hears this, I'm sure that he is always going to enjoy that. But his name is Daniel Wai, aka Bruce. And the way I know him is he's my pledge dad. So when I was in college and I was pledging Lambda Phi Epsilon, the Lambda Phi Epsilon, and he was an alumni, he would fly back down multiple times a week and pledge the shit out of me. And, I have an immense respect for him. And he is an entrepreneur living out in New York right now. And he has a very unique perspective to what's going on. I just want to have a really great grown conversation with him about kind of the events happening right now. And I'm really excited to talk with him. So what up, Pops?
Yeah, what's up, man? How you doing, Andrew? Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Oh my God, never call me Andrew again.
Well, it's like a professional setting,
You're right. You know it.
Try to keep it Grwn Talk. Try to keep it professional.
Yeah. I like it. But hey, I appreciate you taking time to talk with me about it. We don't catch up enough, but when we were talking on Friday, I think it was over the phone, I could tell immediately that this is something that we think about a lot, was what's going on.
I mean, of course, it's something that affects us. It's something that has always been around, even unknown to many, right? Like, kind of like, it's something we've dealt with a lot, and there's a lot going on in New York right now. I mean, even the other day, I called my parents and I was like, hey, like, make sure you drive everywhere. And when you go shopping, like, don't go shopping at like your normal places. That's how scared I am for them. Because, it's crazy. They're elderly. They're 71. And I was like, look, go make sure you shop in Florida. Go make sure you shop in Chinatown. Like, go safe. Don't take the subway. It's crazy that I even had to say this to them. Right. They've been here for 40, 50 years. So for me saying to this is kind of nuts.
What's crazy to me is you say it's not new, right? And I know it's not new because we have our own stories. We both went to school out in rural Virginia, right? In the mountains of Virginia.
South of the Jets.
Yeah. And what's crazy is I was on a podcast recently and the host was really honest and was like, I don't know what's going on. I have no context about the Asian community or the history. And to me, this is all brand new, right? So I had to school him a little bit. So I'm hoping that you can give some depth too on the history of our people, the Asian people in general, in the country. And then we can launch into maybe kind of what's happening today. Well,
I mean, from a personal standpoint, I mean, like, there's always been stuff like this been going on. I feel like, especially the history, it's always, one thing I like to say is like the winners write history, right?
Yep.
We, as American, I was born here, just like you were. Like, I'm just as American as any other person. Right?
Yeah, but where are you really from?
Yeah, from, exactly, right? So I'm from New York. But yeah, I was gonna say motherfucker, but I don't think I should say that. But that's the thing, right? So people actually used to say that to me down in Virginia Tech, and I hated that. But the history is like, the winners always write history, right? So like, how much do you really hear about the internment camps that the Japanese went? Like, I'm not Japanese, but that shit sucks, right? That's not any different than like it's an internment camp. What else do you want me to say, right? There was like the Chinese Exclusion Act. There's all these different things that happen, and the history is just, it's there. There's like 3 sentences of it that you learn about. And is it sociology? Is that even a thing anymore? I don't even know if you have sociology.
History. This guy.
You used to call it sociology when I went to school, but it's like it's really swept under the rug. It's not really talked about. I mean, even like the oppression of Black people, it's there, but they don't really talk about it in history. The winners always write it, right?
Yeah.
So that's big. And now the real big thing is that we don't have people standing up for us, right? Historically, we don't. We're very heads down, work and kind of get through life, have some kids, try to make a good living for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And other races have people that, who champion their cause, right? Like they have, like for the, African Americans, they have Martin Luther King, they have Oprah, they have Barack Obama, huge, powerful people, Michelle Obama, right? All just great figures, great historic figures that have done so much for their race as well as our race, as well as our race. They've done so much for us, right? So like they have people championing for their cause and we don't. And I think the other reason is you don't hear a lot about this historically is this, right? We all come from, say, China, from Japan, from wherever, right? Where it's worse, right? A lot of it is worse, especially in China. So my parents came, they literally escaped communism. They escaped communism through Hong Kong, went through Hong Kong, came to America, right? And to them, it's like, all right, as long as I keep my head down, and, just kind of work, raise my 2 kids and just build a house, build life for them, that's good. We'll deal with the racism. We'll deal with that. Because what's worse is, communism is worse. That shit sucks over there. They take your money. It's like you can't really be an entrepreneur. You can't grow. And it's like you're constant fear, right? Because you can't say anything. You have oppression of rights over there. So it's like, to them, it's like, well, a little racism. Yeah, they do the ching chong shit, whatever. Whatever. That's nothing.
Better than being in jail.
Yeah, exactly. That's better than being oppressed politically or oppressed for whatever other reason, right? So a lot of Asians have that mentality. It's like, well, we don't belong here. So it's kind of like, just keep our head down. Let's be quiet. We can get bullied. That's cool, whatever. And we move along, right? So no one really stands up. They don't want to. They don't want to cause a ruckus. That's all we're taught. Even I was taught that, right? I didn't always follow that mantra for sure, but that's kind of what I was taught as all. So like, that's kind of like the personal experience I have with it. And I think a lot of Asian Americans can really resonate with that, especially first generations or people that immigrated here. Because there's here's opportunity. There is opportunity here.
Man, that's super generational, because my parents also fled from communism from Vietnam, right? And they're very much that way. And my dad is so about the American dream, right? Like in his mind, he might as well be blonde hair, blue eyes. He's American, right? And if you ask him, if you call him Asian American, he'll almost get offended. He's like, no, I worked hard to be here. I'm here now. And so when someone doesn't recognize him or the culture as being American, like you're born in the States, you know what I mean? It's crazy to me how there's a white American archetype, a Black American archetype, right? But there's not really like an Asian identity in the States, right? We kind of flow into and out of the other ones. And it's kind of an interesting one for our generation as we kind of figure it out. Because I've never known you to be I've known you to work hard, but I've never known you to 100% head down, just eat shit.
Well, the thing for me was, I experienced that once in my life, long time ago when I was in middle school, right? I got picked on and I was like, you know what? That feeling sucks. That's never happening again.
Yeah.
So I'm not a champion for our cause like, everyone else is, but I knew from that day on, that was never happening again to me. That's when I learned how to start doing my thing, started lifting weights, started learning to protect myself, started taking self-defense, started taking more. I was like, these are things I need to do because I need to protect myself. I'm not going to get bullied every day. And it never happened again. So it's kind of like, I did have that head down mentality, but I think I was New York enough, American enough that I was like, no, it's not happening. My parents would have just taken it. Like, I told you the one story, like my mom, she stopped on the highway to get flowers. I don't know why you do that. Middle of the night, me and my brother in the car, and she gets mugged by four guys.
What?
Four guys. They bash her over the head. They steal her wallet, purse, everything. I mean, she got stitches, but she didn't report nothing. She was just like, look, head down. Let's,
Why didn't she feel like she should report it?
It was just like, I don't want to draw attention to ourselves. That's literally it. She doesn't want to draw attention to herself. that's kind of like the very immigrant thing. Is like, we don't want to draw attention to ourselves because they don't even feel like they belong here.
See, that's a
Like,
great point that you make, because that's what a lot of people outside don't understand is, well, why don't Asian people speak up for themselves? Right? Culturally, why don't we do that? And there's a lot of reasons that go out there. You know, some people are legit immigrants who shouldn't be here, right? And so they're worried about, you know, getting the authorities involved and they don't got cards right? Or some people think that it's not worth it, their time, all right? Like, I got other things to do, or it's not, I'll just eat shit. But to your point, it's just, I don't want to cause trouble. I don't want to, but why is that the case? And then why is that seen as a weakness? Like, why is that seen as an open target even more than?
Well, it's easy, because if I'm gonna beat on you, ain't gonna say nothing. I'm gonna beat on you again. Why not? It's easy, right?
Yeah.
Right. The strong will always pick on the weak. That's just how the world has worked, right? Yeah. Look at colonism. Look at everything, right? That's literally how the world works. Look at capitalism. That's part of capitalism, right? The stronger companies take over the smaller ones. I think the big thing is, like, for them is like I said, oh, look, I got hit over the head here. You know what? But I still can live the American dream. I'm not in communism, right? Like, my mom and my dad brought all of their family over here so they could all live their dream. And they're all successful in their own right versus them being in China. This is the life they have here with all my cousins is better than anything they would have had in China. And for them, they don't feel like they belong here, because back there is the native language, is everything. And then that also leaves a gap for us where we don't belong here and we don't belong there either. Because if you go back to Vietnam, they know you're not a Vietnamese.
Oh, 100%. They actually say
when I walk around. The way you walk and the moment you speak, it's like, oh, nah, you're not from here. You're from somewhere else. So, like, we're stuck in limbo. They
actually say you smell American.
Yeah. So, like, it sucks. So it's like, it sucks. So, you know, that's why I stick my claim. I'm a New Yorker through and through. I mean, like, I'm more New Yorker than most of the New Yorkers here. Yeah. So
that's a fact. You stayed there. I know a lot of people who left the city when everything happened last year, and you're still there.
Born and raised here. Born and raised here. I ain't leaving. I ain't going nowhere.
What's crazy to me is you and all of our brothers and all the people that we hang out with are not like the Asians I grew up seeing on TV. Right? You know where I'm going with this? Like, like, on TV, it was very Urkel-esque for any Asian on TV, or super buck teeth, like that dude. What's that famous dude who's like super, like, it's like 16 Candles with the teeth and everything?
I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. But
it's the way the media portrays us, right? And that's kind of how it is, and that's how it's been. I mean, they do it to almost all the races too, right? If you really think about it.
But why is it taking so long for us though to get the spot? Because again, almost no one I know who's Asian is really like that. Like, everyone I know is kind of like us. We play sports, like, we got game, right? Like we know how to throw down. Like, it's like anybody else.
I think that comes from kind of, well, the reason, hold on, that comes from basically we attractive who we are kind of thing. So that's why we've always brought around that.
That's fair.
And I think also the reason it's portrayed that way, and also, like, you know, and also we're easy to pick on us, and they didn't act that way. Is a lot of Asians, they are more quiet. They don't want that confrontation. Even in Asia, they don't want that confrontation. And it's also a cultural difference, right? If you think about it, right, in America, where we are more aggressive. We just are.
Oh, yeah.
Like, being born from New York, I had to be, right? I had to be. There's no, you know, there's no option, right? There's no option. And, like, over in Asia, it's different, right? Even think about this small cultural thing, right? In Japan, if I went to Japan and I got lost and I tried to ask for directions, the person in Japanese would probably try to speak English and try to help me as much as possible, even though I wouldn't know Japanese. Do you think that would be the same case here? If you came over here and someone started speaking in whatever, like Chinese, Korean, they're like, oh, fuck, learn English.
Oh, yeah.
It's a different mentality, right? It's a different mentality, a whole different thing, right? So the people over there are just more docile, easier. And when they come here, they bring that same cultural mentality, adapt, right? Try to help, try to be like them. Same with that language, the same concept is adapt and try to really adapt to their culture and head down and just don't be seen, right? Don't be seen, work hard, make some money, buy a house, have 1.5 kids, hopefully son first kind of thing. So
yeah, I did it right.
Yeah, son first. I was always son first. Who's carrying the fucking name? Jesus.
I know, I'm the last one. Let's go.
Exactly.
No, I think that's a super great point. The only thing I want to ask on and add on to is, what was because you're straight New York. Well, like when you say that, I don't think people understand because they haven't met you in real life. But when I met you, you and my big wore Timbs all the fucking time. like in the summer, you were on basketball shorts and Timbs. Like that's as New York as I can see you. Like
good old days. Good old days. But it's different. There's like a New York. There's a little toughness that comes with it, right? It's just a little different because like you dealt with more. I mean, like I hung out a lot in Queens. I mean, I grew up out in Long Island, but I was right on the border of Queens. So I was always hanging on Queens, always hanging on Chinatown. So it's a different. You have those street smarts. You have those city smarts. It comes with it, right? And you kind of got to navigate a little bit better. And if you get picked on, same thing, right? It's now you're the target. Now you're the easy target. You don't want to be that, right? Because it just snowballs, right? And as you can see culturally, what's happening right now, it's snowballing into whatever's happening. I mean, they're picking on the elderly and the women. It's disgusting. It's disgusting on all standards for any race, for anybody, right? Like you're supposed to respect your elders. You're supposed to treat your women right. It's terrible. I mean, yeah,
it's there are really no words for it. What was your experience in New York versus coming to tech in Virginia?
So in New York, I hung out a little. Here's the thing. So in New York, I hung out with predominantly Spanish and African American. That's where I hung out mostly because it's like we kind of got each other. Like that's who we hung out with.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really an issue after that. Like one incident I said. So it wasn't bad. I never really ran into it much after that because now I was in Chinatown or I was hanging out in Flushing or wherever. It wasn't an issue. Now when I went to tech, things are different, right? I mean, I'm talking like, hey, Tech's a great school, great, let's go Hokies, right? I love the football team, I love the basketball team, but the location, I mean, come on, you're 45 minutes from West Virginia, an hour from North Carolina. And like you were so far from DC, North Virginia, where like it's like, I don't want to say like, it's just more culturally accepted, right? And I went earlier times, right? I went like in 2000, it was totally different. Like I was seeing it all the time. Like people yell shit from the buses, people say stupid shit all the time, people saying stuff at bars. It was an ongoing like occurrence. It was happening once a month at least. So it was a lot. Yeah. It was a lot.
I remember not wanting to go to the bars unless I was with either bros or like a decent group of us. Like I never wanted to go in like a group of 2 or 3 or like me and a bunch of white dudes because I knew if something popped off, not their fault, but no one was going to have my back. Like unless I was with unless I was with the bros, right? Like there was one time I was at a bar and this guy, he was drunk and I wasn't probably 100% sober either. So he started wilding out, saying stuff. And I look at my guys, just a real quick gauge, like, yo, if something happens to you, got me. You know that look like, yo, are we about to go or not? And my boys were like snickering. They're like laughing. And I was like, yo, that's not funny shit. Like you're on the wrong side right now. Like, I don't think you understand what's about to happen. And it's not their fault. But I remember hating that feeling. And that's why we just drank at the house a lot. I feel like it was just, it's.
I mean, for me, I wasn't worried too much. I handled myself, right? They say it, the altercation happens, hands fly, and, I didn't really lose. So I'm okay with that. So I welcomed it. I was like, but sometimes, I don't like pushing that like violence, right? That kind of like out there. But sometimes these people are so stupid and ignorant. Like that one guy who killed first of all, he stabbed his mother to death. Out on parole, right? And then he kicks this Filipino woman, right? Or she's Filipino, right? She's like, whatever. She's like, I mean, come on, the guy's like 6'4", she's like 5'2", right? And again, like people like that, sometimes you just gotta knock them around a bit.
Yo, 100%.
And the thing with that is I never felt bad about it because you know what? When I did it, I felt, you know what? Maybe you won't pick on someone else that won't stand up to you because the next person might not. And I'm sure another thing I look at is this, right? He's doing it for a reason. This is not his first time doing it.
Yes.
You don't just do it. You've already done it 4 or 5 times where you're like, you know what? They're not going to respond, and I will be okay doing this, right? Like, you're not going to go out there and go up to a guy, like an African-American, and spout the N-word, right? You just wouldn't do it. You wouldn't dare do that.
There's enough white guys that gotten beaten up for it.
Yeah, exactly. And you just wouldn't do it. You also know that, for the most part, they will retaliate. Now, what's the chance that he goes out and says, ching chong, some ching thing? Maybe. May not say something. But when I took it into my own hands, I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll shut you up for the next guy, and you'll think twice before being stupid and ignorant.
Yeah. See, I don't mind you being violent in that way, because I know you enough to know that you're not going out just starting shit just to get the rep up. Like, you're not putting in work for the gang. You know what I mean? Like, this is in response or like in defense or to set something right. Like, I'm okay with that. But it's just, our elderly won't do that. Right. That's what I was telling my friend the other day, is like, I don't know many people our age that are Asian who are getting physically targeted like that. Because most of us, generally speaking, don't mind throwing down. Like, if we really had to, like, we would do it.
Well, they are still targeting, so they're targeting people our age, but it's women.
Right.
They're targeting women.
Right. You're 100% right.
I think some ladies backpack got lit on fire, and they're targeting they're not targeting real American looking people, right? Like, I mean, the haircut's a little different. Their mannerisms a little different. Those are the people they're targeting. People they think won't do anything, and that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. So what can we do to help them? Them being us.
I mean, look, for us to help. Look, I think we look out for each other when we're out. Be more mindful, right? And other than that, I mean, I do like that there are protests going on and they are starting to do something about it and speaking up. It is nice, even having, someone like Andrew Yang, right? Right? It's got to start somewhere, right? Yeah. I mean, I like him, but that, I have criticism about him, but at least he's out there speaking for someone. There's a face other than what media wants you to see, right? I mean, what's the first movie that portrayed Asians to be cool? Maybe Crazy Rich Asians?
Tokyo Drift, my guy.
I don't know about that.
Even then, the white guy came in one. Like, what the heck?
I think that might have hurt, yo. It might have hurt. I think it might have hurt. But predominantly, think about that. That was only a few years ago?
Yeah.
It's not, and predominantly, it's the rest of them is everything's it's either Bruce Lee, we got Mortal Kombat, Liu Kang, which is coming out and stuff like that, or you got the nerdy Asian science guy, right? Predominantly, you don't really see. Oh no, can't forget the guy in Lost. What's the name? That guy
on Lost? Oh yeah.
Daniel Tim. And then we had Walking Dead, but predominantly we don't have that many out there where they're portrayed as cool or normal or even somewhat of a sex symbol. It's just not there.
Which is. It's not crazy to me because I grew up knowing that and seeing the lack of representation on TV and entertainment. But then in real life, we were wild in college. You know what I mean?
Different. It's different. Oh, back to your point. Sorry, I just tangent. Back to your point was, how do we help? Look, I think look out for each other. I think protest, that does help. Give a voice out there. Speak when you can. Help out. Community if you can. And my other thing is I think, we talked earlier, I really think we need to get together with other people that are oppressed. Just with the BLM, get together, work with each other, right? That doesn't help. I mean, when someone's being oppressed and then they oppress us or whoever else is oppressing us, you gotta work together. Like I was saying about earlier, how much, MLK and all those people championed the African American movement. They also helped us, with MLK, with the Immigration Act, like I said. Without that, my parents wouldn't be here. Without him getting that through, we won't be here, right? So we help each other, and that's how we further. That's how we go equality. We look at each other evenly, right? Not as in you're being oppressed, now I'm gonna oppress you, or they're gonna it's you don't pass it on, right? So we work together. That's the way I see it. Is we work together. We continue to speak out about, and we don't be afraid. That's the other thing, is we're too afraid. I think a lot of Asians are too docile, too afraid.
Afraid of what, Pops?
Everything. Everything's just confrontation, altercation, reporting things, right? And it's just they're scared because that's part of their culture. Just let it go and move on, right? If it didn't kill you, just keep on moving. But that doesn't leave you with, scars on the inside or whatever. Just these, traumatic instances, right?
Yeah, it's crazy because the keep your head down and grind is what helped us become the 1% in the country, right? Like that's like you don't, ignore the BS, eat shit, because long game wise, we got a plan for the people, right? But it also has turned out to be a little bit of a downfall right now, at least generationally, right? Because now perception wise is they can't take care of themselves. So let me ask you this then, right? If I were to ask you, what are 3 things that an older person who's walking around can do to seem less like a target, right? What are some things they can do to look after themselves? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, that one is like, sadly, don't look Asian and don't look old. I don't know. See, in reality,
that's legit.
Is and that's a fact, right? Don't be a woman. Don't be a woman. Don't be an Asian woman. Like, that's terrible for me to say. I mean, in reality, what they need to do is, it's so sad that you can't even like the guy in San Francisco got pushed to his death walking in the morning. What the fuck? Walking in the morning, right? So it's like, what was he doing? He's literally walking. So it's like, walk with someone else. I mean, it's the things that I would ask them to do is ridiculous, because if my grandparents were alive today, I wouldn't even want them out of the house, is my answer, right?
Yes.
Without me there. Because it's like, there's no one to protect them. Like, they're walk. Like, my grandma used to go for a walk. Now, then again, I'd say I would never thought that someone would try to push, but who knows? That was San Francisco, and it wasn't like it was in, I don't know, some rural area of racist,
that's what's crazy, right? It's like a lot of the stuff is happening in metropolitan areas and not out in the boondocks. Like,
so it's like,
people
it's
who have seen us a lot.
Yeah. And that's another thing, is that like, now a lot of the stuff is bubbling to the surface. People don't realize it's been there before, right? It's not like this is new. It's not like Asian hate new. It's not like Black police brutality is new. Look at Rodney King 30 years ago. How's that any different than with the LA riots? It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing. This has always been there. How do you really fix it? Honestly, how do we really fix it? We've got to get people like Barack Obama reelected, people similar to him, right? Someone with like a Black background in political power. You don't fix it from the outside. You got to fix it from the inside. We need people like Andrew Yang in office to maybe help, champion our cause or champion something closer to at least some equality, right? You need people, the lawmakers, to make different laws to help change. I really, truly believe that that's how it's done. Because it's like, we can protest. I want our voices heard. I love that. It's great. But we need change from the inside, right? You need political change. You need lobbyists to change. You need us, that 1%, to lobby in politics, right? We need to vote. We need to vote. That's another thing we don't do.
We don't do a lot of that.
You know what? I'd stop. We need to vote. Because, so in New York, right? I mean, we haven't gone Republic. We haven't gone red in like 40, 50 years or something. I forgot the number. It's like 87 or something. I think maybe Bush. I don't even remember, but it's been a minute since we've gone red. Does that mean I don't vote? No. I mean, in theory, my vote is just a toss in there. But what it does do, this is what I tell my parents. They're like, I'm like, no, you need to vote no matter what. You need to vote no matter why. Is because the lobbyists, the politicians look at your the demographics. And if Asians at 5%, guess who I'm not catering to? Asians, if they're 5%, Hispanic, if they're 10, right? Or, if African American votes are 10. Oh, the rich white people are voting. Boom. That's what I need to look for, because that's how I get reelected, right? So if we vote and we put our numbers in, we get the lobbyists, and then we get change. That's truly how I think we get change.
That's a good point. And I like how when you're talking about protests and everything and giving credit to BLM and all the other movements in the past, I think that's really important to say. And I want to echo that one more time, right? Because when we start going through these things right now, it's crazy how we still need to stand up and speak for ourselves, right? Because, and I never want to do this. I never want to go into a who has a worse thing, right? That's not the point. But it is interesting when things like this happen, like the attacks happen, right? And it starts popping up on the news for a week, it seems like. And then it goes back to everything else while these attacks are still going on. And what's crazy is when that dude shut up those spas, right? That caught news for a day, 2 days, and everyone who wasn't Asian would just joke and be like, "Yo, was it that kind of spa?" Yo, shut the fuck up. Who the fuck even cares even if it was? Like, that is an attack, and the dude went to 3 different spas, so it's intentional, right? So you can't say he was like pissed and was just driving around shooting
or having a bad day.
Right? Like, none of that. So, but it's crazy. And then there's another shooting, which is horrific, a week later, and I'll hear nothing about what we're doing. And that's not on the media. That's on us, right? To like continue making it important to do. Because right now, if it wasn't for my Instagram and Facebook, I wouldn't know about half the attacks that were going on right now.
Well, I think part of that is kind of what I was saying about getting us into positions. If we had more Asian journalists, if we expanded our set from our parents' time to be fucking doctors and lawyers, Jesus, like to something else, else. Like, can we be something else?
Stop making this money. We don't want it no more.
Right? But it's like, but we need to get out there. We need to just put ourselves out there, stick together, and just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to report something. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. If you belong here just as much as anyone else here. The only people that really belong here are Native fucking Americans, indigenous people. They were here first. They're the only people that who can tell everyone else to leave.
Yeah,
right? They're the only people.
Yeah.
You think everyone else that colonized them, and they brought over slaves, which is terrible. And then we immigrated over here. We worked on the fucking railroad, and then we escaped this, refugee that. Everyone is a refugee here. So we all belong here. We all belong here. Every single one of us belong here. Well, mostly the Native Americans. But what I'm saying is we equally belong here, right?
Yeah.
So know that, feel that, and believe that. And that's kind of how I've lived. My mantra is it's like when you're you don't belong here, go home. Like, no, motherfucker, I'm about to send you home. It's because it's you don't belong in some side. It's where are you from? What's your heritage? And then when they spit out something stupid like German, I'm like, okay. Are you no, all right then. So how's that any different, right? You immigrated here now. You immigrated here maybe before I did, but that doesn't give you more reason to be here more than I. Right. And people have that strong sense of confidence, right? And it's easier said than done. It's a lot easier said than done, right? I built my confidence through the years, and it wasn't immediately, right? But believe in that, right? And I think that helps.
When you say your parents came over and they just wanted to belong, right? I think my parents are very similar, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but the way my parents are, I think the outlook is when they came in, they felt like they were Vietnamese people in America, right? And then when we came up, it was we're American, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a clear dynamic shift there. And so what is that conversation like for your parents now that everything's going on, now that they've been here a while,
Oh, it's so it's funny you say that. So for them, it wasn't they just wanted to belong. It's also they didn't want to be seen, right? Because it's we just got here. Let's just do our work, right? Come down.
That's different for us, all right? We're hip hop, right? Graffiti, everything. I was here.
Yeah, it's different. It's very different. So it's funny because it's for them, their mentality hasn't changed. 40 years been here. They're probably more American than other people that have immigrated here, right? And then they feel all uppity about that shit and whatever. But they have the same mentality. The other day I was talking to my mom and my dad was like, "Hey, be careful on the subways. There's a lot of attacks." I'm like, I'd love for them to try me because they could try by old people. I'd love them to try me instead. Because if I use beat, I'll be on World Star Hip Hop with the quickness. But the point is, it's they have the same mentality where my parents are still hey, take it easy, head down kind of thing. you know, and they have the same mentality 40 years later. It's the same thing. They're like, just be careful. Don't go out too much. It's dangerous out there. And, you know, the same thing. And I'm calling them, telling them, hey, you don't go out too much. They're talking to you. Like, you know, they're talking to you. You're elderly. I was like, you don't go anywhere. And same mentality where, and for me, it's the same. Like, I was born here. I was born in the city. And I always feel like I'm a New Yorker, an American through and through. I mean, everything from the way I dress, the way I talk, to our attitudes, very American.
So normally I ask something in regards to my son or sons now. So he's a mixed kid, right? He's going to be coming up, and I don't know if we'll be in Texas or not, but he'll be in America. He'll be an American kid. He's going to have a different approach to being American than you or I did and our parents did, right? So how do you think he integrates or, you know, comes up and doesn't separate himself, but then also makes a lane for himself? Does that make sense?
No, absolutely does. I also think that being Asian American is a blessing. I have two cultures in one. To live two cultures in one. I know totally about one culture and I totally about another. What does that give me? That gives me knowledge. It gives me tolerance. It gives me just ability to know more and understand more, have empathy, to feel both, to understand both. And that's how I feel. And I think even with you, your son, you have mixed. You're going to have three cultures. I think that's the most amazing thing ever. I think for him, embrace it all. Learn about each. Learn Vietnamese if you can, right? Learn about the lantern holiday. Help me out there, lantern holiday. I know you said paper something. You got something. I know there's something.
Yeah, I'm with you. Keep going.
That's what I'm saying is embrace it. Learn it all.
Yeah.
Embrace that and learn all about the cultures. Be confident in who you are too. It's going to be tough, but it'll make them better. It'll make them a better person. More knowledge. The same as why I always encourage travel. Understand different cultures, because that's what breeds tolerance, right? Intolerance comes from ignorance, lack of knowledge, and stupidity. All three are the same.
Yeah.
Lack of information, right? Now, if you were any sound, decent human being, and you were somewhat, you know, what had these ideas, and I talked to you about our experience when I feel, and if you have any empathy, you would understand maybe that's kind of wrong. And maybe we can expand knowledge and, you know, enlighten someone else, right? Drop that knowledge on someone else, right? And they won't be as tolerant.
So would you say it's important for us to support each other in our efforts and everything?
Absolutely. I think support each other in efforts, and kind of like what you said, expand that knowledge and kind of talk about your experiences and talk about, that's kind of what I want to do, is talk about experiences and kind of, you know, inform more people. Like I was having a conversation with my other friend and she's like, I never knew this existed. Same crazy, conversation. Yeah. She's a very knowledgeable person, but she never knew because she didn't interact with that many Asians or Asians that dealt with it, right?
Yep.
You know, it's like, if you don't understand it, you don't know about it. And that's not, I can't hold that against you, that you didn't have these shitty experiences, right? I'm glad you didn't. But when you hear about it, you understand, you're like, oh, light bulb. It is a fucking thing, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh man, this Asian hate's out of nowhere. It's not out of nowhere. It's been around. I dealt with it when I was 10. That's 28 years ago. That's 30 years, right? Like I dealt with it a long time ago. It's been around. I dealt with it in college. That was 20 years ago. Like it's been around. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's still here.
I think the thing I struggle with though is, okay, it's around. I would say it's better, at least for me personally, right? As I've grown older and learned how to deal with certain situations, right? Whether it's checking somebody or just educating somebody on the spot, like, hey, this is what's up, or now what's up. When these things start happening again and we rally and we do all these things, I think the Asian in me is worried that we're just going to continue to cry, right? Come off like we're crying, like, yo, help me, like, you know, all of these things. And so when you say something like, it's not just about rallying, it's about being involved and participating in, you know, the government and politics and different organizations, and not just sharing things on Instagram or Facebook, right? I think that's really important, like to actually be moving things, right? It's a movement, right? So you got to be actually doing things and not just pushing things along and like being active about it. Knowing all that, why would you make me rap battle a black guy in New York as a pledge?
So I thought you could win.
I did win.
That's what I'm saying. So we had to prove a point. We had to prove a point. Right? That we're different.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's crazy how we all live in our bubbles, but I told you this on Friday. All the bros that I knew were jerseys, Timbs, fitted caps at the time, right? We played ball. We loved hip hop. Like, as American as it gets, right? I mean, as American as it gets. Yeah. And it's just crazy to think that even now when I walk around, there can be times when I know someone looks and has no idea what the depth of the culture is. Like, none. And, in New York, it's more of a melting pot than anywhere else. And I've been there, Do you feel support or tension from the communities around you?
Well, usually I've always felt somewhat support because it's New York, right? It's always like, like I said, I hung out with Haitian guys, Puerto Ricans, and Dominicans when I grew up. That's why, right? Our crew, I hung out with one white guy. It was mostly these other guys, and oh my God, it's cool. He knew, he understood, right?
Right,
we were different, did our thing, right? And I always felt support because we had that. There was the culture in New York. It was always, West Virginia, we're down there, a little more racist than that, a little, boondocks, right? We're not like that. We're not like that. But lately with the attacks going on, I don't know anymore. Like I feel like, like I ride the subway today. Like I lower my music now. I pop one earpiece out. I'm not trying to be shoved on the fucking tracks. I'm not trying to be shoved in the tracks. That's not how I'm going, right?
Right.
So it's like, it's scary time, I think, for everybody. Even though I'm out there, I know I can take care of myself, but I'm more aware now. I'm a little bit more aware where I wasn't 2 years ago. Just jump on the train. Now it's like, am I going to get killed today? Am I going to get stabbed today? Right? Is this the day? It's like, that fear, true. It's a true fear. And it's terrible, right? And it's terrible for us. And, I equate it to the same. I was talking to my buddy about this. He's black, and he was talking about that's the fear he gets with cops.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So he has that fear around cops. Like, we understand. And that's how we should relate. And that's why we should band together with all that are oppressed and all that, all the differences, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to my buddy, and we're talking about my son, and I was telling him, like, for the first time, I'm like a little worried about his safety when he grows up. And then my friend who's also black was like, yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
He's like, you got to talk to him about how to interact with people growing up now. And I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. But I don't know, like when things like this happen, do you think people were already thinking and feeling certain things and then wild out? Or do you think certain events activate and teach them they can wild out? Because here's my example, right? I don't think you were around then, but my freshman year at Tech was when the shooting happened. And the dude was Korean. It might as well be 9/11 and me a Muslim, right? Because after that, when I walked around campus, there were so many times I was like, I should not walk alone. This is before I pledged too. So I didn't know any other Asian guys, right? So I was like, this is no good. And I remember getting, just called out, getting chased one time. And I was like, this is stupid. Like, why am I going to school here? This was not the way 3-4 months ago. Like, are people always like this? So I don't know. Like, what do you think? Like, is it worse now that they're allowed to do it, or they seem like they're allowed to do it, or is it activated?
I think it was a series of events, right? I think this has to come down. I mean, it has to come down to like what kind of transpired in the last few years that, there was an encouragement of, you can be racist. That's cool. Like you can be a white supremacist, whatever. It's like, there's just, it's being ignored, and now it's bubbling up to the surface, right? It was always there. Like I said, it was always there. It was never gone. It was always there. Now they're just not scared to say it. That's all that is. Now they're not scared to roll out their Confederate flags, roll out their straight racism. They're not as scared. So that brazenness is scary. I think it's scary. I think it's a little different. So it's always been there. It's just people are they feel more empowered that they can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. I mean, my first reaction is to check everybody. Like, as soon as someone starts wilding, I'm like, nah, like, you need to sit down. Right. But I know I can't overcorrect. Right. Because I don't know. Can I? I don't.
Well,
you're from New York, man. You can tell me to go on.
I don't think there's an overcorrect when it comes to racism and being a dick. No, I mean, there's an overcorrection on, I think, when you're being like politically correct on all those things. I think you can a little overcorrect on that to a certain degree.
Okay.
Or some other matters. But racism is spouting hatred, right? Like, how do I overcorrect on hatred? I don't think they can, you know? And, you know, even now, I think people are still a little, like, people are so brazen now. Like, the other day I was watching this video, this guy, he was on the subway and he's spouting some shit about like the Chinese virus and the Ching Chong, all that. And that Chinese virus shit, like, really fucked things up for us. And he was going off, and his friend, so someone starts yelling at him. You can find this on YouTube somewhere. Someone starts yelling at him, and her friend's like, "Oh, no, it's okay. You know, it's okay. You know, I got him." And then she's like, "You don't got him. He's out here drunk, spouting hatred." It's like, "You don't got him." And then she called the friend out, which I'm glad, because she's like, "You're condoning this by not stopping him. You're his friend. Right now, he's spouting racist comments, and you have not stopped him. So therefore, you condone him." Which you are, because you enable and you allow.
Yes, yeah.
That's no different. Enabling and allow is no different than condoning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's thinking back now, having this conversation, I'm just remembering all the little things that happened that I let slide all these years. Because one, I didn't think it was a big deal, or two, it wasn't worth the time, or whatever the reason was. And I'm like, man, if we had checked everything at the door all this time, could we have prevented some of this stuff? And I know you can't think that way, but it's crazy to think. And it's just bananas because it happens in these metropolitan areas. When I go to New York, I really don't see like one race. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you walk down the street, you see everybody. You see hoodies and beanies. That's all you see walking around. And so to still get targeted like that is just it's disheartening a little bit. When would you ever leave New York if it got crazy enough?
No. I was born here.
New York through and through, my guy.
No. Half the New Yorkers aren't from New York. I'm more New Yorker than half the people here. More than half the people here.
Yeah.
Out of the people I hang out with, other than like all my boys, they're not New Yorkers. They're from California, Minnesota, Florida. They're not from here.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
here first, buddy. If you want to play this game, I was here first. Now, a point you put on is, you talked about microaggressions, pretty much what you just said, right? Those little things.
Yeah.
And I think,
can you explain real quick what microaggressions are, though? Like, define it.
It's like these small things, like, oh, we like, kung fu, right? Stupid shit like that. It's not totally racist, but it's a microaggression, right? It's small, but small enough. It's a slight, right? Or you say some shit about, whatever, like, oh, you eat dogs. Ha, that's funny. No, motherfucker, I don't eat dogs. Okay.
But it's crazy because we've coped with it in different ways, right? Like if someone says, you eat dogs, my typical response growing up was, nah, I eat your mom's pussy, right? Like, that was like, I eat your mom's cat. Like, that's what it was. But yeah, like, I don't know.
Those do need to be checked, because they were not checked. That's how they become bigger. Micro becomes macro, right?
Right.
You don't check them. There's something even I don't do sometimes. Like, they'll say something, I'm like, you know what? It's not worth my time, but maybe I should have, right? So, like, there are small things people say, and I'm like, yo, that's not cool. Like, they do it with, I feel like they do it with Asians a lot.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They do it a lot. Like, you wouldn't dare do it with some other races. Like, some of the shit you would say, like, you just wouldn't say it, right?
Is that on us, though? Is that on us to hold the line better?
Yeah, absolutely. That's back to the point of being confident in yourself. Don't be stepped on. Don't be a stepping stone, right? And that's same thing. It all loops to the same thing, right? I mean, and educate the person, like, yo, like, it may be a joke. That's not fucking funny. Like, don't say that, right? That's not cool. You shouldn't say that, right? You know, it's like,
yeah. I think it's hard too. It's hard too because I think we've gotten a lot better about it, at least our generation. But when I'm trying to think of a time when maybe I was out with uncles, aunts, mom, dad, whatever, somebody older, and maybe something happened, right? It's tough because my instinct is to check what happens, right? Like, hey, like, that's a no-go. We don't do that here. But then the other part is like, yo, if I speak out and they don't, is that disrespectful to my elder? You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I think, look, they're not going to do it. Like my parents, my uncles and uncles never do it. My uncle's the sweetest man ever in the world. They wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's not their thing, right?
So we have to.
Yeah, like we do. Like my uncle's strict with me. He's strict with his family. But if someone did those things to him, I know he would just head down, kind of like, I don't want trouble. That's how they are. So I think it's on us to stand up for ourselves, stand up for our elderly, to stand up for our weak, right? We are strong, so we stand for those that cannot.
I love that. That's why you're my pops. I think having conversations like this and it's good to see, right? So the reason why I do the podcast is so in case something happens, right? My son can look back and see, you know, his dad knew some really like cool people, you know, and he could learn some things. But hopefully when he watches this one back, he could say, yeah, I'm a mixed kid. I got some confidence. They were in a different spot than I was in and a different spot than their parents were in. And I need to continue growing and checking, right? As he gets older, because as we get older, that shit won't fly still. Right. And so the community will become even stronger as the generations grow. But I think it's important that we're intentional about it.
Yeah, I think we are. And I think hopefully, I believe we may be at a turning point where our generation differences are just enough that we aren't going to keep our heads down and we will speak up, right? Like I did it differently at a time where those aggressions I did not take. Like in college, like if you racial slur, immediately there was an altercation. Immediately there was.
Yeah, I believe it. I remember hearing stories.
And that didn't really happen back then. It didn't, right? And now it's more like, all right, racism is not cool kind of thing, right? So like it didn't really happen that much back then, especially for us. There weren't people standing up. And now, I'm seeing more protests. Like I said, there were protests back many years ago, but not to this degree. And I think hopefully, there's a turning point. Like I said, even people like Andrew Yang running for mayor.
Is he doing that still?
Yeah, mayor. Huh?
Is he still doing that?
No, he's running for mayor. I mean, he was a presidential candidate.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then there was huge controversy about not covering him, all that stuff.
All that, yeah.
Right? So stuff like that. But it's like, we need these people to pave the path, right? And I think we're at a point, you know what? Maybe we can turn it around and we don't deal with this as much, right? We have a voice. We're beginning to have a voice, right? And hopefully we can add on to that.
So if you're going to support everybody, are you going to watch Boogie? Are you going to watch Boogie?
What's that?
You don't even know?
What was that?
Boogie's this movie that's out right now. It was directed by... Oh man, I'm messing this up. Oh,
I don't know Crazy Rich Asians, bro.
Nah, it's a movie about I think it's Chinese, maybe Taiwanese. I don't know, a basketball player out from Queens, I think. And it's just him playing ball, like figuring his life out and stuff, and drama ensues. But it's directed by Eddie Wang from Fresh Off the Boat and everything. Okay. And so I was telling my boys, like, look, if it's good or bad, we gotta support it somehow. Like right? Because
Rent it on Hulu.
Something. I mean, because even if it's bad, if it does decent numbers, it gives us a chance to do it again and do it right. Yeah. Right. But if we don't support it, then we lost the chance.
No, it absolutely does. And I think it's good to have pioneers and stuff like that, right? Even in film. Right?
Oh, especially, yeah.
I mean, look, we have plenty in like Hong Kong, all that stuff. If you really think about it, anything that has to do with anything that is fights, they got that from Asia. Like all Matrix, those like they brought like shit from Hong Kong. All those guys, if you go further back in Hong Kong action films, they're filmed exactly the way they are now done.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So there is that. So it's kind of like we need to continue make producers. And so that if we have those people, like once again, if we have those people in those positions, different casting, right? Like maybe if the person that did Ghost in a Shell was like, it's a Japanese main character. Maybe I won't cast a white woman that's a redhead, that's, that has no faintness to looking Japanese.
Wait, you're not tired of a white protagonist coming into Asian culture and winning whatever it is? Tokyo Drift, Karate Kid, whatever.
But what's worse is that they'll take someone who's supposed to be Asian and just make it white. That's even worse. Yeah. So stuff like that. But if we have people in this position,
look at yellow face.
So it's like if we don't have those people in this position, we won't have that.
So, we talked a lot, but I know we're going to talk again about different shit down the road, whatever. But this was important because it's timely and my son's getting older and he's starting to understand people's words and everything like that, right? So if you were when he watches this back and he sees Uncle Bruce, right? What words would you tell him to navigate the world? It could be race related or not, but if you had to speak to him directly, what message would you want for him to grow up and be the best man possible?
It would be yourself, but be understanding, understand different cultures, understand different situations, be confident in who you are.
I love that. Yeah.
I mean, those are the fundamentals of being a good human.
That's everything I know about you. Yeah.
Be yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself, especially being a mixed kid in this world, growing up in America, Texas. Be yourself. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of your heritage. Be proud that you're part Vietnamese. That's something you should be proud of. Don't be scared of it. Don't hide it. Right?
Yeah. I love that. I will share 2 lessons that you taught me that he'll look back one day. The first one is this one always gets me. The idea of if you have nothing left to give more. That one reigns true in my life. Especially when I'm tired, I want to go to sleep. I go. Well, one of the things I would say is, Pops wouldn't sleep. Pops wouldn't let me sleep right now. Yeah. He might bust the door and make sure I wasn't sleeping and was working. Right? like
push through. You push through.
Yeah. I mean, because you got to get it done.
That's what achieves greatness.
Yeah. I mean, sleep is the cousin of death. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the other one, which you said was something along the lines of fight for those who can't. Right? Like be strong enough to fight for those who can't. And I think that's really important. I think it's something that I've lived by, and I picked up from you also, and hopefully that he gets as well. So I appreciate you doing this, man. Hopefully I get to come to New York soon and see everything. Is everything back open?
Yeah, I think it's about to be insane here because I think like everyone's like half vaccinated. The cities we're allowed to do 16 plus vaccinated. So anyone that can get it, we can get it right now. Yeah. I'm getting my second dose tomorrow. So the city's going to open back up. I think within a month, we'll be back to like a 2 a.m., 4 a.m. curfew.
That's crazy.
It's not going to be Miami craziness kind of thing, but I think they're going to start opening things up because, our restaurants and businesses are hurting, our Broadway, all the stuff that makes New York is hurting a bit.
Yeah.
And it's not going anywhere. It's not like suddenly they're going to be doing New York Fashion Week in Ohio or anything. So
that's fact. That's a fact.
Yeah, start bringing stuff back.
Are the restaurants inside again yet?
Yeah, we're 50%.
Okay.
50% is like 100% because it's like they're just basically you can't stand at the bar and you can't stand. But restaurants is pretty full. They're pretty full. When I walk in, I'm like, this don't look like 50% to me. But okay.
Are you cool with it being full, or are you stressed if you see a large crowd right
now? One, because I got vaccinated the first dose, and then my second one is Wednesday. I'm a science guy. Statistically, I'm 80% immune by tomorrow. 2 weeks to 95. 95 is pretty good odds. I'll bet a lot on that, right?
And you're young, fit, all that.
Yeah. So it's like, look, I take care of myself. I'm smart about it. I think, yes, being full may be a little dangerous if you have underlying health conditions, but be aware, be smart, right? Wear your mask, wipe shit down. Don't pick your nose, wash your hands. Wash your hands when you leave the bathroom. It's not rocket science, okay? Right. Be somewhat fucking clean. Oh, you'll be all right. So
nice. Thanks, man. Anything we didn't talk about that you want to touch on?
No, I think we touched on a lot of things, right? I think we did. I think we covered a lot of stuff. I I just hope the best for all of us.
Yeah, that's it's crazy. What sucks is, and to your point, like, rallies they're important and they're good, but they don't move things forward as much as we hope they do. I don't know what else to do, man. Like, and it's crazy because I do have the kid now, so I'm super conscious about what his life is going to be like growing up. And so the only I can think of is like, well, you're just going to talk because you could talk, like, how to do this thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm doing it with you. I had a conversation with another Vietnamese guy and two Latin dudes on a podcast earlier this week. And it's crazy how many people don't even know.
Look, I think what you're doing is also huge because, this brings it out to your audience. They may or may not know. I don't know what the demographic of your audience is, but this brings awareness, right? Was it promote Asian awareness? Was that number 1 or 2? Something like that. But the point is, it's like, it really does, that does help, right? And kind of, like I said, voting, right? That's more, literally voting is more important in my opinion than rallies. Because
I love that you said that. I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Well, because you can rally all you want. Now, I'm not saying, no, they're important. Have your voice. They're so important, right? And acknowledge the pain that's out there. But who's really moving that? Like, who is stopping police brutality, right? Let's just say that for the BLM. Who's stopping it? Lawmakers. Why? Outlaw the chokehold, right? Maybe outlaw taking a gun out for like noise violation call, right? So like
that kid was it yesterday? That got
shot? It was like Sunday. I think it was Sunday. So stuff like that, right? Pulled over for a routine traffic stop for a whatever. Maybe you can't carry your gun for that, right? Is that necessary? Right?
I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that she was reaching for her taser and pulled a gun.
Yeah, that's the thing. So like, okay, so the benefit of the doubt in me says, she's saying, I'm going to tase you, taser. But my other hand goes, Glock, taser. I kind of know the difference.
Anyone who's touched a gun knows the difference.
Wait, trigger.
Where they are on your hip.
And also, I was also listening, you're supposed to have your firearm is on your predominant hand. Your taser should be on so you should know which to reach for, right? And now, what does that mean? I don't know. It also means that I think the training, give me a second.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. What does that mean? What does that mean? I think that comes down to training, education, right? Like I said, we need the lawmakers to implement new policies, do more things. Voting is the number one thing that help anything, right? That's why voting is so
expecting that from you. That was good. No, it was great. I loved it.
Because that's the true change. That's the true change.
I mean, at least you're in America.
Yeah.
That's why we're here, right? I mean,
exactly. So it's like, that's the true change. I think voting is the only real way to do it.